Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Stitch Sessions. It's summer in full swing, and we're all about the beach getaways, the cottage getaways, the outdoor dining. I'm all about that this summer. So this week, I'm going to show you how to make this Star in Stripes hot pad. And it's made out of 100% cotton. And it is using just basically single crochet stitches, so really easy to do. I know it looks a bit complicated, but you'll be surprised at how easy this is to do. Sorry guys, I've got the door open because it's such a glorious day, so you can hear all of the outdoor summer sounds. But anyway, this is super easy to do and a really great little project for taking to the cottage, maybe having out in the backyard. And it makes for a fantastic housewarming gift, especially if you know someone that just moved into a new home. Maybe they're entertaining for the first time. This is fairly quick to do and easy to make. So let's grab our materials and let's get stitching. To make your Star in Stripe hot pad, you're going to need 100% cotton yarn. I'm using the size 4 medium weight, the Bernat Handicrafter yarn. I happen to be using 2 different colors. You can actually do this in 3 or 4 different colors, or you can even use a variegated yarn. I decided to use 2, and that's why I've called it the Star in Stripes hot pad. So you'll need that. You'll always need a pair of scissors to snip your yarn, and later on you'll need a darning needle for sewing in your ends. And I am using my favorite hook for this project, which is a 5mm hook, also known as an 8 or an H hook. We're going to begin with a cinch circle or a magic ring. Once you have your cinch circle, you want to chain 1 to secure. And now we're going to proceed to single crochet 10 times into your circle. So you'll insert your hook, pull through, yarn over, and pull through. Okay, and it might take a little bit of patience here. The cinch circle is always the tricky part because it doesn't like to sit still. Okay, so you'll pull through. That's 2. So 10 single crochets into your cinch circle, and I'll meet you when you've done your 10. Once you have 10 single crochets into your cinch circle, you're going to take your short tail and you're going to cinch it shut. Okay, so that'll bring the center of your circle nice and closed. Then what we want to do is find the top of that first single crochet, which mine is going to be right there, and I'm going to slip stitch into it. And this will close off your circle. And we should have 10 stitches all the way around. If you have 9, that means you skipped over a little stitch here. It's hidden somewhere. Or maybe you miscounted and you only single crocheted 9. But we do need 10. Once you have 10 single crochets and you've cinched your circle, you've slip stitched your circle, we are now going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then into the second chain from your hook, you are going to do a single crochet. And then you're going to proceed to do a single crochet into each stitch along. So there's 2, 3, 4. So we will have single crocheted 4 times. Into the 5th one, we're going to do another single crochet. And now into the next stitch of your circle,
you're going to do a slip stitch to anchor that petal down. And then in the very next stitch of your circle, you're going to do a single crochet. Okay, then we will proceed to repeat that. We're going to chain 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In the second chain from the hook, we are going to do single crochet and all the way down the chain. 1, 2, 3, 4. Be careful not to get your chain twisted. 5. And then we go to our circle here, and this is the next stitch in our circle. We are going to slip stitch to anchor down that petal or that point. Can be a little tricky here with the cotton yarn. So now it's going to start looking something like that. Okay, and then into the very next stitch of our circle, we will single crochet. So remember, we had done 10 single crochets to create our circle. So this should give us 5 points or petals of our flowers. So we will slip stitch into one and single crochet into the other. Slip stitch, single, slip stitch, single. So the one that gets the single crochet is the one we build the 6 chains from. Okay, so we have 4, 5, 6, and you're going to repeat that again. So once you get your 6 chains, the second chain from the hook, you insert and single crochet back down the chain. This should give you 5 single crochets down the chain. And once you've done your 5th, you're then going to slip stitch into the next stitch of your circle and then single crochet into the next stitch. So here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I go back down to my circle. Now see that one's already been worked into. So we are going to slip stitch into this next one. Pull through. And then we find our very next stitch, which is right here, and we do our single crochet and we chain 6 again. So your work should start looking like this. Okay, so I'm going to set you loose to finish the other 2 points, and then I'll meet you when we are done our 5th one. I've done my last petal here, and I want to show you something. I am going to change colors now. I will find the next stitch, which is right here, and instead of picking up this yellow like I normally would do and pull through, this is where I'm going to introduce my next color. So in my case, it's going to be this hot green, it's called. And let me just get to the top here. I've already unraveled a bit of it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring in this hot green, and that's what I'm going to pull through. So I'm actually going to I'm going to leave this here because I'm going to bring this color back in. Right now I'm just going to hook on my green color, and I'm going to pull that through, and then I'm going to slip it through that final stitch there. So you may need to pull on the yellow there just to tighten it up. And so it's going to feel a bit wonky right now until we start stitching, but don't panic. Pull that in a bit. Okay. So your work is looking something like this right now. It kind of looks like a lopsided star, but that's the basis of what we're working off of. Okay. Now it'll be a little easier because we're simply going to work stitch into stitch. Okay. So we're going to move on now into the next round, and eventually this is going to secure itself. So Be careful not to get yourself tangled up if you're doing this technique as well. So what we're going to do now is we've slip stitched into the bottom. We're now going to continue working up the side of our petal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work into the very first stitch here. Now remember, these are chains, so you're still working into the sides of a foundation chain row technically. So they're probably going to be a little bit tighter to start with. So I am going to go into this first one here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So your instinct may be to go into this very first one here, but we're actually going to skip over that and we're going to start into this first one above the circle right there. So it'll take a little bit of snuggling into that chain, and then you're going to just do a single crochet as you normally would do. And these are a little bit loose, I know, but they will tighten up as we go along. So into the next stitch, I'm going to do a single, and into the next one. In this first round, once you hit the 5th stitch, that should be the top of your petal here. So we're going to insert into the back loops only. So now we're actually starting to work into stitches. So when we're coming down the left side here of this first round, so we're going to work into the back loops only, and you're going to do 1 single crochet, you'll chain 1, and you'll insert back into that same stitch to do another single crochet. So right now we've done 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches. Into the 5th one we did a single crochet, chain 1, single crochet. We are now going to work down the left side of that petal, working into the back loops only. And once we finish this round, we will now have full stitches to work with, and that's what we're going to be working into from now on. So then you will work down this side into the back loops, 1 single crochet, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so what's going to happen here is we are going to slip stitch into this 5th one here, and then we are going to skip the next stitch, and we are going to begin single crocheting into the very next one. So again, we're working up the sides of that chain, the foundation chain row. So we have 1 single crochet, might be a little tight to see. Here's 2, here's 3, 4. Now we're going into the 5th one, which is right there. That's actually a stitch now. So you have to work your way in there. And we do 1 single crochet. We chain 1, and we do another single crochet into that same stitch. Okay, so now we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches before we hit a chain 1. Don't worry if you can't quite see it yet. As you work continuous rounds, it'll be easier to find as we go along. Now going down the left side, we're working into the back loops only. 1 single crochet. Here's the second one. The third. Whoops, the 4th. And now we're going to slip stitch into the 5th. And just like we did before, we're going to skip this next stitch here, and go right into the first one here and do a single crochet. So that is going to be, whoops, that is going to be the pattern for this round. So you can see it's already starting to take shape. And because we're working into the back loops, it's going to create this neat little ridge here. So go ahead and finish the other 3 points, and I will meet you back here when we're going to change back to color A, which is our yellow. Okay. Okay guys, I am ready to do my final slip stitch here into my 5th stitch. So I'm going to insert the hook and I'm going to drop my green. I'm going to pick my yellow back up and I'm going to pull that color through. Okay, so our first official round, because remember the initial stitches were just the setup template, I guess we'll call it. So we finished our first official round around the star, which right now it kind of looks like a starfish actually, but it will start to take shape now going into round 2, official round 2. So now these are all stitches we're working into, no longer are we working into foundation chains. Okay, so as we did previously, once you slip stitch, you are going to skip the very next stitch and you're going to go into the first one you see here, and again back loops only, and we're going to do 1 single crochet, 2, can be a little bit tight with cotton yarn, 3, 4, okay, and we're coming up to stitch 5, and you should be able to see that that's where I did my single crochet, chain 1, single crochet. So into the back loop of stitch 5, we are going to do a regular single crochet, and now into the next one, which would be the chain 1 here, creating the space. We're going to do a 6th chain 1, sorry, a 6th single crochet, chain 1, single crochet. So you'll notice we're increasing our stitch count. Okay. Now down the left side, we continue as usual, 1 single crochet, 2, 3, and we're going to slip stitch into the 4th one. So you will start losing a stitch on this side. That's what's going to create that point here. Once you get to the bottom here, you always skip 1 stitch and go into the very next stitch, which is right there. So we've skipped this one here. Sorry if my camera's not focusing. There we go. We're skipping that one and going into the very next one right there. And we're going to do 1, 2, into the back loops, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so right here is where we're doing our chain 1s. So we're going to go into that to create a 6th stitch into the back loop. We single crochet, chain 1, single crochet into that same stitch. Now we continue along, back loops only. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And actually we're going to slip stitch into the 5th one here. So we skip one, and into the next one we single crochet, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we have a 6th stitch here. So the 6th one will also have a chain 1 and another crochet, single crochet. Okay, so now your work is starting to look like this. So hopefully you're getting the gist of what's happening here. So I'm going to let you continue to finish round 2. So continue on with your single crochets into the back loops only, and I'll meet you up when we're getting ready to start round 3. Okay guys, round 3, I'm getting ready to slip stitch and carry up my green back in there. So I'm going to go into my last stitch there, and I'm just going to insert, and I'm going to drop my yellow and pull through my green. Okay, you probably just need to tighten that up a bit. So now your work is looking something like this. Okay, so now you can really see that really cool ridge effect that the back loops are creating. Going into round 3, so as usual, so the formula will remain the same now as you increase your number of rows. So every time you slip stitch, you will always skip the next stitch and go into the following stitch there and single crochet 1. You're going to go all the way up until you find that last stitch before the chain 1. So we're 2, we're 3, we're 4, and we are 5. And right here is my chain 1. So I'm going into the 6th. Now this first one a lot of times will be 1 stitch less because in the previous round we increased up to 6 stitches, but usually around this space here where we're slip stitching to start a new round, it can get a bit funny. So don't worry if you find that you're only getting the 6 stitches. That's normal, and it's not a big deal at the end of the day. Now, what we're going to do is we've done the 6th here, we chain 1, and we single crochet into the same stitch. Now we continue down the left side, so we now have 1, 2, 3, 4, and we slip stitch into the 5th. Can be a little bit snug there. Oops. Slip stitch, and then as usual you skip the next stitch, and into the next one we continue on. So every time you skip one, that's what gives it that neat little dip in between, and you can see it's already starting to kind of curl a little bit. That's perfect. That's exactly what we want. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we are coming up into our 6th stitch. 6, and now we're hitting the chain 1. It can be tricky to see. Chain 1, and now go down the side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now we're going to slip stitch. So it can usually sometimes they fall slip stitches on top of slip stitches, but not always. So it can be a little bit snug. So we slip stitch there, we skip the next one, and we continue on as usual. So don't get too tied down to the number of stitches. They will and should remain fairly consistent. But if you miss one here or there, or you add one extra, it is not the end of the world. Because visually you should be able to kind of see where you are. So this is now my chain 1. I'm going to insert a single crochet, chain 1, and insert again. And that's always where you do that. So see, it starts creating that little point. So try to find the chain 1 stitch. So if your stitch count is getting a bit wonky, that's what you do. And visually, you should be able to sit back and be able to tell that it's falling quite nicely in its space. So you can really see it's taking shape now. Yeah? Okay, guys, so this is pretty much it. This is the pattern, or as I like to call it, the formula for your starfish / flower motif. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep going. I'm going to meet you at the end of this round, which is round 3, and I'm just going to start you on the 4th round. Okay, just so that to kind of keep you in the groove of how the pattern is taking shape. Okay, so go ahead and finish this round, and I'll meet you at the beginning of the next. And here we are. This is the end of round 3, and now you can really see your star shape taking shape. Okay, so I'm getting ready to introduce my color back into round 4. I'm just going to start you off on one more round, and then I will let you loose to make your star as big as you like it. So this sometimes gets can be a bit tight here. So you just have to use some patience. So I'm bringing back my yellow, and I'm going to slip stitch it through there and just tighten up my green. Okay, so we've just slip stitched, and now we are going to skip the next stitch and go into the following one, into the back loops. So we have 1 single crochet, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I believe that is our chain 1. So we're going into the 6th one there. Okay, and then we chain 1 and back into that same stitch. So that helps to keep that pointed edge there, and then we go down the side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're going to slip stitch. Now, see, these tend to get tight, so sometimes, this time I'm going to slip stitch into my 5th stitch. Then I will skip the next one and single crochet into the very next one. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, Okay, so we've got 6, and now our chain 1 is right here. So we're actually going to go into a 7th stitch now, chain 1 and single crochet. Okay, so now the petals can start getting slightly longer. And it depends if you want to keep kind of a fatter petal, you would try maybe to keep it all the stitches exactly the same. I do like to elongate my petals, so that is what I do. So down the left side, we are now going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we will slip stitch into the 6th. We'll skip this next one here, which is a slip stitch of the previous row, and we will start single crocheting into the next stitch. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this one is the chain 1 stitch. So that's our 7th single crochet, chain 1 and single crochet. So you can see now that our stitch count has increased on the right side. So we always stitch up to where the chain 1 is, and that will increase our length by 1 stitch, chain 1, stitch again. Then down the other side, we do one stitch less, and that'll give us the chance to slip stitch and skip. So we've done 7 here, and now we're going to go down the other side. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 is going to be a slip stitch. Okay, and technically we didn't count that other single crochet at the top, so we do have 7 stitches here. Okay, because remember, when we single crocheted, chain 1, single crocheted, I started counting after that. So technically we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the 7th one is the slip stitch. So then we skip the next stitch, which is that one there, and we begin counting all over again. Single crochets. So every time you're going up this right side, 2, 3, you'll get 4, 5, 6, and now we're going into the chain 1, so that's 7. See, so we've increased our stitch count. So we have 7, chain 1, and single crochet back into that same one. So technically you could already start counting this single crochet as part of the stitches down this side, which would also give you 7. So then we'd have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we're slip stitching the 7th. I hope that makes sense, because in the previous one I actually didn't count the one I did into the chain 1. So now our stitches are 7 on each side, 7, chain 1, 7, and the 7th one on the left side is always a slip stitch, and that's why we will skip that next stitch and then begin the new set going up the right side. So when we're finished this round and we slip stitch, our goal is now to single crochet all the way up to, so if we finish this round with the yellow, when we start the next round, we want to increase the number of stitches by 1 because we're going to work into the chain 1, but we'll always single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, which continuously increases the number of stitches as you go round by round. So the first couple of rows I kept them the same because I just wanted to kind of widen it out a little bit. But now I want to create a little bit of a longer point, and I want it to start to pucker a little bit just like that. Okay, so if there's anything you're unsure of, just stop, go back in the video, and just have a look and do it again. So I am going to continue on and do 12 rounds in total. Again, I'm making this as a hot pad to stay in theme with our cottage, beach, picnicky, getaway theme this summer. So I am going to, this one is just an applique, so I kept it pretty small with only about 5 rounds here. But I'm going to increase the size of mine so that it'll create a nice size for any hot dishes you might have when going to the cottage. So guys, off you go, and I am going to meet you when I'm finished my 12 rounds. Okay guys, I've gone ahead and done 14 rounds actually. I just felt that I wanted the pad to be a little bit wider in diameter. So you should have something that looks like this. And the puffing up or the puckering in the center is exactly what I wanted to have happen. Because I'm going to use this as a hot pad, I just feel like it gives a bit more cushion between the surface and the items. So for me, I'm quite happy with this. And you can make yours as big or as small as you like. Obviously, a hot pad is going to have, you know, somewhat larger size dishes. So I ended up doing 14 rows of my star in stripes. And so now I am going to fasten off both of my colors. I'm just going to leave a bit of a tail here so that I can weave in my ends. So now I'm just going to add a final touch, and that is a little loop. Some of you may actually like to hang this up as part of your kitchen decor, which I think would be really fun. It's very summery. So I would take I would take one of the 2 colors you've been working with. I'm going to stick to my yellow just to kind of keep it all uniform. So I had yellow as my center. I used yellow as my finishing round. And now I'm going to use yellow as my loop. So in order to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to start off with a slip knot. And I would leave a bit of a tail. That way you can weave that in. And find a corner, any corner you like. I think, so I fastened off here, so I probably want that more towards the bottom. So I think I am going to start in this corner here. And what you want to do is find where you placed your chain 1. So that, if you look closely, this is the first stitch, and this is the second stitch that's in there. This is the actual chain 1. So I'm going to place my hook right through there, and I'm not going to place it through the loops. I'm going to place it right through the full stitch if I can get it in. Sometimes it's a little bit fiddly, so just take your time and find your spot. There we go. So you're going to insert your hook, and then you're going to slip stitch to join. There we go. Man, cotton yarn is strong. Okay, so we've slip stitched to join, and now we're just going to create a chain. So I am going to chain 12. Once you've chained 12, you are going to snip your yarn. I would leave a bit of a tail because we're going to do a little bit of sewing in there. And then I would fasten off my work. Just like that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to turn this to create a loop. And I'm going to pull this right through here. So I'm going to go back into where I went into the first loop. And I'm actually going to either use, I'm going to use a darning needle. So I'm just going to thread that through. And now I want to make sure this stays flat. So I want to go back into that original loop that I slip stitched into. So it's right there. So I'm going to insert my darning needle and I'm going to feed that through. And that, hopefully, there we go. And then just make sure it's not twisted, which it was. There we go. And then I'm going to take this short tail here and I am going to tie them together. And that should secure my loop. And I like doing a double knot there. Just like that. And so now you have a loop, and then I'm just going to weave these tails in and then snip off my yarn here. So I'm just going to pull up so you can see that's what our loop looks like. Super simple, just a chain of 12 if you want to chain 10 or you want to chain more, totally up to you. But that's it. That's how we do our loop. I will then sew in my ends, which hopefully you guys are up to date on. And there you have it, your Star in Stripes hot pad. This will make perfect summer decor as part of your table settings out on the picnic table in the back or the patio set. This has been super fun to work on. Love these colors. It just gets you right in the mood for summer. I hope you've enjoyed working on this little project. If you have any questions, you know you can always leave me a comment in the comment box down below, or you can always email me directly at info@crochetcrafty.com. And don't forget to click subscribe so you can always stay up to date on all of our crochet tutorials and if you enjoy watching some of our stitch session conversations. In the meantime, everyone, have a great day and happy crocheting!